Well, greetings, everyone. Welcome to our YouTube channel, CK Sports, where we always talk about everything sports, but we try to have a huge bias on football, Ugandan football, and African football on so many occasions. We are in Kigali, Rwanda, where we are covering the FIFA series, and that gave us an opportunity to get to meet and talk to different people. And my guest today is somebody who works for FIFA, but he is African, and with him, we are going to be discussing everything to do with the FIFA Forward Programme. And this is none other than Solomon Mudege from Zimbabwe.
Correct.
I don't know if I've pronounced your name very well.
That's correct. You've done very well. Thank you.
Well, Solomon is the FIFA. What's your actual title, actually, before you mess it up?
So I'm the head of development programs in Africa. So I specifically focus on the Forward Program and also support other stakeholders under the Forward Programs, such as CAF, as well as the strategic priorities of FIFA, such as I know we're broadcasting. There's the FIFA Plus initiative, so I'm involved in that, as well as supporting on governance matters as well.
By nature of your job,
Yes.
how many African countries have you visited?
I think in terms of my job, I just gradually grew in the role. So I started working primarily with Anglophone countries.
Okay.
So I think I would have visited 80% of them. 80% of them. I think I'm reaching 40 or so. Yes.
And probably by the time your contract runs out, you
Yes.
would have, or by the time you get into another
Yes.
office, you would
Yes.
have visited all of them.
I think the ones that I've missed out is because I've been engaged in other countries or repeated visits to certain African countries for development matters and governance matters. But it's certainly a pleasure to be able to see the work that we're doing across the continent.
And just for context, somebody watching us and they're probably wondering, they hear us throwing this term around here and there. The FIFA Forward Programme.
Yes.
What exactly is the FIFA Forward Programme?
Okay. So the FIFA Forward Program is FIFA's flagship development program, which provides funding for development for all the 211 member associations of FIFA. We specifically focus on supporting projects in areas such as infrastructure, leagues, national team support, as well as the operations of our member associations. So in a nutshell, that is the program.
And what is the core objective of this program?
The core objective of the program is to have an impact in terms of development initiatives to see more facilities being available for football, both in terms of administration, in terms of actually participating through technical centers and playing fields, as well as increase in the growth and the participation of the number of people. We also share initiatives with our women's football division, which would like to grow the number of women's footballers in the world. So that is also a target of ours, to grow participation in football.
And then how is the program structured in terms of funding, allocation, and maybe priority areas?
Okay, so the program is available, as I said, to all the 211 member associations of FIFA. We're now in the third cycle, which is coming to an end of the Forward Program. And underneath this program, member associations can, over the 4-year cycle, receive up to $5 million for their operations. So that is to support their national teams, to do courses for coaches, administrators, as well as to pay salaries for staff, look at the marketing of the member associations, the auditing that needs to happen, the congresses that needs to happen, as well as the projects, which is going to be another amount of $3 million for this particular cycle, where we're focusing on infrastructure. With here, as you mentioned, we're in Kigali. They've just completed an accommodation facility where their national team is actually staying, while other teams which have been invited to the FIFA series are staying on hotels. They've got a high quality accommodation facility that they're using. Also, we have technical centers. We have a need for football pitches in Africa. So those are the types of investments that can be made for this $3 million of project funding.
Maybe just help us understand. When you say the fund is available to all the member associations of FIFA, now where I'm sitting, I'm probably looking at some of these member associations and I'm wondering, do they really need this money? Yes, we're discussing. Okay, well, and even if we kept it, let me say Africa. I mean, you're looking at places like countries like Egypt, Morocco, South Africa, some of the superpowers of the continent. And you're like, do they really, or even those ones in Europe and all that, do they really need this kind of funding?
I I think one thing I've come to realize is that in every country, everyone wants to grow, everyone wants to do things better. So we might see Morocco in a particular light, we might see South Africa, Nigeria, whoever it happens to be in a particular light, but every country wants to go the next step. So in the case of Morocco specifically,
Even the leading countries in Europe?
even the leading
Just to take
countries
it
in
there.
Europe. So I think we've had a project, I know in England, whereby some of the success that has come from the Lionesses doing well has led to young girls wanting to play football. And the FA needs to have established programs for that, and the FIFA funding goes to support that. They've got a Wildcats program that they used to have. Similar to Morocco, which now we see the success of maybe the women's national team, but that women's national team was based on investment under Forward into their women's leagues. So that they would get better, and now clubs such as Asfar are playing in FIFA tournaments and doing quite well on the continent. So I think when it's all about need, we compare ourselves to those who are above us, but maybe fortunately or unfortunately, those above us still want to do better. So wherever those FIFA funds are made available, they're appreciated because they advance whatever is being done.
And what criteria must a member association meet for them to be able to access these funds?
We've got different criteria in terms of how the funding works. Firstly, this is FIFA is invested in making sure that the funding is used correctly and that the member association has correctly identified the areas where this investment should take place. So there's something called a contract of agreed objectives, which is signed at the start of every 4-year cycle, in which we agree with the member association how the funding should be invested. And then formally, there needs to be also a review of all the money that FIFA sends. So there's a central review, which is done across all the member associations, as well as we also have to respect each member association's governance procedures. So you'll find that in each member association, there needs to be financial statements that are produced, and these also have to be shared with FIFA so that the member association can continue to receive funding.
I told a colleague of mine that I was going to do an interview with an official from FIFA who is in charge of this Forward program, and usually when we're having these kinds of discussions, what always comes about is the issue of fairness in the distribution of these funds across the countries. How do you ensure that?
The fairness is always there. So I think no matter the country, no matter or the member association, no matter the leadership in there, the funding of under Forward program is guaranteed. And everyone has access to the same fund. But
so what I get as Uganda is what England gets.
Yes, what England gets. There might be some technicalities in terms of additional funding. We have some solidarity funding, which focuses on national teams for them to travel and play matches, as well as them to get equipment. So what you find on average is that everyone gets the 8 million. That's the base. So England, Germany, Australia would get the same as Fiji, South Africa, Lesotho, Grenada. That 8 million is the base. And then there's some additional solidarity funding, which over the cycle comes to about 1.2 million in addition to support the national teams in terms of their travel and also in terms of their equipment needs.
And then what's the exact process from a proposal to submission to disbursement of these funds?
Okay, so in terms of the operational cost, the funding that we need for the operations, that is based primarily on proper use of previous funding. So you must be able to report to FIFA and to be audited in this central review process on how the funding has been used in the past, and that unlocks more funding for you to continue your operations. In terms of the projects themselves, these stem from this contract of agreed objectives. So in the case of Rwanda, if we use them as an example, we have already established at the start of the cycle that we'll make investments in infrastructure. So that is the infrastructure. So
that was their proposal.
Exactly. That was their proposal and that was their objective. And what then comes next is the specific projects that they would like to do. So the project was the accommodation facility that is prepared with the support of the regional office. We've got these regional offices across the world which are close to the member associations and support them in the preparations of their proposals and projects. And depending on the amount, for anything of a proposal more than 300,000, that has to be approved by the development committee of FIFA. So what you'll find is that there's a lot of engagement between our regional offices, between the FIFA administration as well as the member associations in preparing certain projects.
Are there cases where a member association will submit a proposal and it is not approved, or they really have to give good backing for that approval, for that proposal to be approved?
Well, because of the interaction that you have, we don't get to a stage where something is formally approved or formally submitted in an application which hasn't been discussed before.
Oh.
So in the initial interactions is we are proposing to do this. The regional office of FIFA is there to say, okay, this is how we're going to go about it, so that the project fulfills all the requirements. And then once that is agreed, the proposal goes through. So there's sometimes when projects potentially would not meet the FIFA's requirements, and that project would not proceed. For example, we do have some member associations which would like to invest in certain facilities, but one of the things that we would need to have is guaranteed access for that member association on a long-term basis. And if that is not fulfilled, that means that that project cannot proceed.
Then the issue of auditing, how often, frequent does FIFA audit its member associations to make sure that these funds are being put to good use?
So the auditing happens at two levels. There's the auditing that is dependent on FIFA and dependent on FIFA's funding. So as I've said, there's a central review process where FIFA works with several auditors all over the world, so that each and every member association is audited and on the funding, the FIFA funding that they've received. So FIFA is aware of the money that has been spent, and it tracks how the supporting documents and the justifications are submitted by the member associations through this auditing. So that is done across the world on an annual basis at the same time or the same period for all the member associations. Then there is the auditing that takes place as a function of each member association's own statutes. So it's not Uganda being told to audit itself by FIFA, it's Uganda having in its statutes that every year financial statements will be prepared. And those audits are found in all the member associations' statutes, but the timing of it differs. Maybe the financial year in Uganda ends in June, 30th of June, another one is the 31st of December. Maybe the accounting standards that are used in England are different from the ones in Uganda, but there is a general auditing process that happens. But this auditing for the financial statements is not just on the FIFA funds, it's on the global funds that the member association would receive from parties such as FIFA, the government, as well as sponsors.
Then are there incidences where probably, maybe you can also give us examples, where funds have been withheld or withdrawn due to non-compliance from member associations?
Yes, there are several instances where funds might have to be withheld. As we have said, we do want the funds to be managed properly, and there are certain practices which might lead to restriction of funding, such as use of cash. FIFA does not, the regulations do not allow the use of cash, so there needs to be traceable transactions, invoices being submitted, and bank transfers, so that the use of the money can be safely and correctly audited. So that if the member association is using cash in its forward program, that could lead to a restriction. If the member association is not keeping the supporting documents or not accounting for the money and how it is used by subsequent recipients. So a federation can decide we're going to give money to each club, and then the question from FIFA would be, what were you giving the money for to the clubs? How did the clubs report to you that they used the money correctly? And if so, if that documentation is not available, that might lead to restrictions.
Then how has this program been impactful on the African continent where you directly supervise?
Yes, I think the program has been a real game changer for a lot of member associations, because before there was programs that were there, but they were not guaranteed. You could not actually predict how much money you would receive. But this is a very transparent way in which you know what money is available. It's part of the global FIFA budget, and you can plan according to this. So you would find, we mentioned the size of, or the commercial successes of the different member associations, that in Africa, the FIFA Forward Programme counts for a lot of the revenue that they're expecting to receive over a particular year, a particular cycle. We are also helping them to become self-sufficient in terms of how they can make their own funding. I think last month we were in Uganda for the commercial strategy for women's football Uganda, and that is a way in which we are assisting the member associations to become self-sufficient. So as I've said, it's a real game changer in terms of having assured funding and assured support from FIFA, which allows the different programs to be advanced.
Then maybe which areas, and you talk about grassroots,
Yes.
infrastructure, or governance, have you
Yes.
seen the most measurable progress?
One of the key challenges in Africa has always been infrastructure. The fact that we would like to have playing facilities, whether it's stadiums, mini stadiums, technical centers, being available not just in the capital city, but being decentralized across certain countries and in our member associations. So the infrastructure is quite important. We are reliant on things such as artificial turf because of the rate of usage in a particular facility. So there's been investment in infrastructure. There's also been support for national teams to participate in competitions at all the different levels. So I can recall that the 2 times that Zambia has been to the Olympics for the women, that has been with support from FIFA in a forward program. The Cape Verde achieved the historic qualification for the FIFA World Cup 2026, once again with support for FIFA under a forward program. Recently, Ghana, I don't know if you've been following women's football on a national team level, Ghana is now ranked 3rd in women's football in Africa. And part of their strategy was that we had a program with them where we assured funding so that Ghana would be able to play in every single women's window. So there's some women's teams which skip windows because they don't have the resources to. So with Ghana, they're able to play in every window.
Was that a proposal from your side as FIFA or their proposal?
A proposal from the Ghana Football Association in which we found merit in it. It's part of their support for all national teams, and we were able to put together a project for that. And what was good about that type of project is that it unlocks other opportunities which go beyond what was planned. So I think last year Ghana ended up playing against England in England, which is something that the English have seen how the Ghana team is performing, how they're regularly playing, and it attracts other opportunities which go beyond what might have been originally planned.
Well, the story of Cape Verde, just
Yes.
try to probably elaborate more
Yes.
how the program
Yes.
impacted their game to the
Yes.
extent of them actually qualifying for the World Cup
Okay.
for the first time.
So with Cape Verde, I think we had a program when they started the qualifiers where they needed funding to, one, look at performance enhancement, and in terms of tracking and having the GPS equipment so that they could monitor players, also for their scouting, to look and discover more players who could add to the national teams. And then you would realize that they're an island nation, basically off the coast of Northwest Africa, and they're playing on the African continent. And there's a large cost involved in that. I think you realize that in one of their last matches, they were coming from, let's call it, Northwest Island and playing in Mauritius, which is kind of southeast. So the cost of going from Cape Verde to Mauritius are quite prohibitive. And then we had to find ways and budget for them to have their travel catered for, their accommodation catered for, and then they can travel safely for and correctly for their games.
Did they ask for that because they felt if that is taken care of, they would be able to qualify for the World Cup, or they just thought this is a step we need to take to improve performance for our team? Because they were in the group that
Yes,
had
yes.
Cameroon, and everyone thought
I
that
think it's-
Cameroon would be
Yes, yes.
qualifying.
I think it's just one of the pillars. If you do things well administratively, you take away the stress from certain things. So the general secretary or the team manager, the money is there. He can plan or she can plan as quickly as possible for, okay, we're going to play Mauritius. How exactly are we going to go there? All right, which is not a last minute decision, but there is sufficient time for them to see and to plan how they'll do it. So I would say the success definitely is due to the efforts of the players on the pitch, but the more you can do off the pitch administratively, you give yourself the best chance of success on the pitch. And that's why we're able to help a lot of different member associations and to work with them, because Cape Verde isn't the only one. There were others, some of them even in Cape Verde's group, who we also supported we try our best to do things administratively, but the end result is always based on how the team participates and how they play on the pitch.
There's also the bit of facilitating the team's travels and equipment. Which are some of these African countries that have benefited from that area?
Okay, so the solidarity support, the additional support, is based on the regulations that we have, and those regulations say that if there's any member association whose non-FIFA revenue is less than 4 million USD per year, they can get this funding. So if your non-FIFA revenue, annual revenue, is less than 4 million, you can get the support. So you'll find that a lot of the member associations have been able to benefit for this support. It's some of the funding that allows them to particularly play in some of these zonal tournaments or regional tournaments, because sometimes the men's national team and the women's national team, in some cases, their costs are covered sometimes by the government, or the government has an interest in supporting them. But when it comes to under 17 girls, under 17 boys, there's also the CAF under 15 school championship. Maybe they might not have the resources to do that, and this solidarity funding does cater for that.
I don't know if you would be comfortable saying, but which country do you feel that has probably maximized this program very well on the continent when you look at all the countries that you work with?
Okay. There are a lot of good examples. I think we're in one in Rwanda in terms of how they've approached it. They've built their accommodation facility. They're also having 4 pitches installed across the country, so they're doing well there. We have other countries such as Egypt. They've also built a technical center which they're using. We were contributing to that, and that's another aspect of this guaranteed funding. Maybe the forward funding is not enough for everything that you plan to do. You secure funding from elsewhere, and then the forward fund assists there. So their technical center, it's of a high level. It's even being used now for CAF initiatives. I know the CAF executive program, which was done there, it was hosted in a facility that is managed by the Egyptian FA and was built with the forward fund. So Egypt has done well. Tanzania has done well. There's Kigamboni and Tanga, which are their new technical centers. They're used for the talent development scheme projects that is done with FIFA, as well as they are also offering CAF courses in these particular ones. So we have a lot of coaches who are coming from surrounding neighboring countries and doing their CAF courses there, which was always an aim of the TFF, that these technical centers would be hubs of technical development, not just in Tanzania, but for the region.
And how are the rest of us performing?
The rest of us are
Uganda, Kenya, South Sudan.
Uganda is doing very well as well. I think with the investment in Kadiba, which originally when we started in 2018 was meant to be a technical center only catering for FUFA's needs. I think there was a change in the CAF stadium regulations around 2022. Then it became a sort of a venue that could be used for international competitions. So I think the under 20 ladies team or women's team played there against Zambia
and Namibia.
Yes, for to play there. So it's become a match venue, as well as now it's a training site, a potential training site for the AFCON 2027. So that has helped. That has gone on quite well. We have other initiatives that we've been supporting, the further development of the FUFA house. As you know, there's a building behind, so that was developed. There was improvements to the current building, and now that is what is hosting the FUFA TV and other operations. And Uganda has also been involved in the drum
The drum is funded by this program?
There was a single edition where we had to fund it so that it could sort of be what it is now. And then once they had achieved that FUFA, I think they were able to find sponsors for themselves. And I think there's now a new governance structure in the different regions. So in the first year, there was a project which we called Member Enhancement, where there would be general secretaries in the different FUFA regions, which would be reporting to the FUFA HQ. So there's been diverse projects. There's one which we're trying to continue with now in Lugazi, trying to make sure that we
the federation does have land in Lugazi.
Exactly. So
and I remember yesterday in the presentation, you mentioned something like you are encouraging member associations to have their own stadiums that
Yes.
meet CAF or FIFA standards
Exactly.
to be able to host games.
Correct.
Is that probably a project that
Exactly. So,
you're
look,
looking
guys,
at?
I think the donation that they got initially would be something that would be used for local football in that particular area. Depending on the funding that is available, further investments can be made, and that is one of the things of Forward that for this $8 million that we spoke about over the 4-year cycle, projects have to be prioritized, and the federation has to see on what has the maximal benefit for their development. So linked to this, you asked which member association has done well. Another member association which has done well is South Sudan FA.
Yeah.
So for theirs, they said we are a new country. All the stadiums, because of our history, are located mostly in
the actual Sudan.
in Sudan. In South Sudan, there's not enough good stadiums. There was a historical stadium in Juba, so the decision was to sort of take away all the elements which are not needed according to the CAF stadium regulations and then rebuild such that they have a stadium. So if you're someone in South Sudan, you might not have seen national team support, you might not have seen member enhancement, but they can definitely point to the new stadium that they have, or the refurbished stadium that they have, which is now being used for international matches, and which is also being used by the Sudan FA, who unfortunately there's conflict in the country and they have to look for other places to play.
The Lugazi project,
Yes.
when does it kick off, and what should we expect there?
So the Lugazi project, primarily there was a facility, land that was there, and then they were going to develop it for the local community to use in local matches. So at the moment, it's just being reevaluated on what exactly should be done. And we do understand that at the moment, there's also desire from other community leaders to make more investments in it. So what we can expect is a football facility that will be good enough to host matches for the local matches.
Then still around East Africa, what projects
Yes.
do you probably look at and stands out for you as a success story when you look at all the projects in the region?
Okay, we've got to also, I think I'm leaning towards stadiums because I know that is an issue where we have. We've got the Stade Ntwari in Burundi.
Burundi, yeah.
So there, the Burundi did not have a certified stadium. This is a historic stadium which the government was keen to have developed. So it was a partnership between the federation as well as the government to say that the government will take care of all the requirements regarding seating and what's needed in the stadium, and then the pitch will be renovated by the federation itself with support from FIFA Forward. And so we've been able to achieve that. They hosted one of their qualifier matches there, and it's also in line with what Burundi has done. I think they're on their 6th or 7th pitch that they're doing in the country. So pitches is what they're
All artificial turf.
turf that they're doing all over the country, so that they give more opportunities for countries for their local football to further develop.
And then what structural weaknesses still limit the full impact of this program in the East African region?
Okay, so I think,
or on the continent?
yes, I think we're making good progress, as I said, in pitches, but the needs outweigh or go beyond what is currently available. We've been trying to look at how we can professionalize clubs, because some clubs are reliant on the member association to do what is needed. But if we can capacitate the clubs themselves so that they can generate some revenue and look for opportunities, look for partnerships, so that these challenges that we're talking about, the facilities, can be addressed by the clubs themselves, that would help. So we're looking at how we can make football more sustainable in each member association, how we can improve not just the member association itself, but all the stakeholders that are involved, and also how we can make it more accessible to say that as we prioritize, maybe the people's thinking is just men's football, but also there's significant progress that is made in women's football. And if you look at the progress that is being made in Uganda, as you mentioned, women's football has come a long way, and they deserve to be supported even further. And that Uganda case study is the same in a lot of African member associations, to say that if they put more investment in women's football, I think they would go far. And even the performances in the last FIFA Women's World Cup showed that African teams, which have the necessary support and funding, are able to go far in the tournament.
What's the biggest challenge that you face when you're trying to implement this program across the continent?
I wouldn't know if there's one problem that I can identify, but I would link a lot of it to that we work in an ever-changing situation, and we need to be adaptable to that. And that is on the FIFA side as well as the member association side. And one of the things is that we never know what's coming next in terms of the history of the program. So we had a lot of programs which were planned just before COVID. And then COVID came and it caused disruptions to how the projects were going to be delivered. And in that, FIFA responded by launching the COVID relief plan. And on the member associations, they were given an opportunity to reassess the projects that they were doing. If money had been invested in a league, but the league is not playing, there was an opportunity to say that they would like to stop that and to focus on a different initiative. So I think I wouldn't mention a problem, but I would say that it's a requirement to be flexible and to try and look for solutions so that we can respond to any changes that happen.
And then probably for me, the last one will be what should member associations or Africa expect from FIFA in the next cycle of the Forward Programme?
Okay, so I think there's been a very key moment on the 30th of April in Vancouver. That is the next upcoming FIFA Congress, where the budget for the 2027 to 2030 cycle is being presented. In that budget, there's an increase in the expected increase in the revenues of FIFA in this cycle. Up until 2026, there was 11 billion, which was the targeted revenue. In the next one, the announcement has been made that it is going to be 14 billion. And from that, we expect a 20% increase in the FIFA Forward program. It will be the FIFA Forward 4.0. And now the discussions that we're having with the different member associations on what will be the best way in which the Forward program can advance. How can we support them? Not only by increasing funding, but looking at our processes and looking at the priorities of the member associations to assist them. One issue might be an increase in the national team tournaments. Another issue could be how we can better assist our zonal union and our confederations so that they can make advancements. I don't know if you remember, but the CAF Women's Champions League was an initiative that was primarily initiated by FIFA funding during a COVID time, where it's a difficult period, but it was also the correct time to launch a new tournament. And now it has gone on to be one of the most recognizable tournaments on the continent. And we look forward to the FIFA Club World Cup for women, the FIFA Women's Club World Cup. And that is part of the things that we expect. So I think there is increased funding, which the members will be able to vote on, and we will assist them in making sure that there's the optimal use of this funding.
Lastly, there's funding that goes to the zones. In this case, Sekafa, where we belong, Kosafa, Wafu, and the others. But there's also funding that goes to the confederations. In this case, CAF, UEFA, and all that. What exactly does this money do?
So for the funding that goes to the confederation is to help the confederation in its operations, as well as any initiatives that benefit its members, which are also in turn FIFA members. So you have this funding being used to train referees, this funding being used to launch new initiatives. CAF has done a lot of trying to sensitize the referees to VAR, so the VAR initiatives that are being done there. We've also worked on things such as safer stadiums. So we were involved in the assessment and the launch of the CAF safety and security regulations. They have now taken it on themselves with the Forward funding and other funds to have regular workshops that they have in each country to promote safer standards in stadiums. So that is what the Confederation money is used for, to benefit the Confederation in its operations, as well as any initiatives which benefit the members. And then the money that goes to the zones is specifically for tournaments. So we are using that funding to have qualifiers for CAF tournaments, to have standalone women's championships, which we have senior women's championships, so that the women's national teams can play closer to home at lesser cost and get the experience of playing international football.
Yes, you had also highlighted that that money that goes to the zones should be used to organize a minimum
Yes.
or maximum?
Minimum.
A minimum of 5 tournaments
Yes.
annually, but one of those
Yes.
must be for senior women,
Senior
women competition.
That's correct.
Just try to elaborate on that and why.
So I think out of the funding that goes to each zonal union, we expect them to have the 5 tournaments you said, 1 for senior women, 2 for boys, and 2 for girls. We actually have a situation now where the tournaments are quite active in the African region. So the senior women tournament usually ends up being the zonal qualifier for the CAF Women's Champions League. Sometimes they add another tournament. We recently had the COSAFA Women's Championship, which Namibia won. There's also the CAF African School Championship, so we support them. There's regular competitions that are because of the expanded and more regular FIFA Under-17 World Cup, that there's also a regular competition within the zones for at Under-17 boys level. So whatever is being done, it's sort of part of a ecosystem, part of an environment where it's linked to and is supporting other initiatives as well.
Well, any final remarks? I'll let you go.
Well, thank you. I think the media is doing quite an important job in the promotion of the FIFA Forward Programme and other initiatives that are being done in our member associations. We're always willing to engage and to share whatever we can about this beautiful game of football. So we thank you for such shows, and hopefully we'll be able to report in the coming future about more impressive achievements within African football.
Well, probably in the future, countries like Uganda can use the FIFA Forward Programme to qualify for big tournaments like the World Cup, just like Cape Verde did. Well, that's all we had for you on the show today. Solomon Mudege here is from Zimbabwe, like I did mention, in charge of the FIFA Forward Programme, specifically the African continent. Clive Chaze is my name. A big thank you to Asha Komgisha for making this interview possible. Catch you again in the next, I should say, podcast.